As the townspeople stand around the wreckage that almost killed Dr. Frankenstein, they believe his creation is gone for good. A new mad scientist comes to town, Dr. Pretorius, and forces Frankenstein to help him build a new creation. Together, they will harness the power of science to become like God. Together, they will rule the earth with the dead. Together, they will create the Bride of Frankenstein.
Welcome to Movie Friends. My name is Seth.
And I'm Michelle.
And today we're talking about The Bride of Frankenstein from 1935. Directed by James Whale, based on the story by Mary Shelley, cinematography by John J. Mescal, composed by Franz Waxman, edited by Ted Kent and Maurice Piver, makeup by Jack Pierce, and costume design by Vera West. Starring Boris Karloff, Colin Clive, Ernest Thesiger, Una O'Connor, O.P. Heggie, and Elsa Lanchester. Michelle, how are you?
Hi, Seth. You look very different from the last time I saw you.
Oh no, I'm Frankenstein's monster.
Wow. Seth is green.
I'm
everyone.
green. We're here. It's spooky season.
Yeah.
Last year we talked about Frankenstein
Mm-hmm.
and I wore this jacket
Mm-hmm.
and Michelle was like, you should paint your face green. And I was like, oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided to do it.
So cool.
We've got so much stuff to do, but
I know.
just crazy thinking about how this is our 5th Frankenstein movie.
I know.
2 years.
Well, I like Frankenstein-esque, right? Because we didn't do all like Son of Frankenstein and then the Frankenstein meets whoever in the world of yeah. But I know it's pretty neat, huh?
Yeah. Anyway,
the
last time you saw me was at our live show for Space Jam, September 21st. It was awesome.
How are you feeling post-show?
I've recovered by now. It truly took me like 2 days.
Yeah.
Like
same. I have
come
recovered
down
and I feel good. What a time.
It was so cool. Nick and his wife Kristen came out from California. Mike came from Canada.
I know.
I did not expect that.
I know.
Jillian came from New York City.
That's right. Yeah. Pretty cool.
Our friend Krista came from Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
That was super crazy nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then, a bunch of friends and family listeners from Long Island. It was very cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
What about you? Are you recovered?
Yeah, I'm recovered. I feel, you know what? I've expressed to you privately, but I am very proud of us and I'm still very proud of us. So yeah, I'm just riding that. I am very, very proud of what we accomplished this year.
Yeah. Even as you look into your camera and see me sitting here with green face.
Yep. That's right. I wrote 2 shows with the little green man and I am proud of it. So I'm really proud of us.
Before the live show, I said to you, I was like, we basically wrote 2 plays in less than a year and then performed them. But yeah, look out we're recording out of order. And so hopefully our Space Jam episode is already out, but keep an ear out for the next one. We're going to try to find where to do the next one. And once we knock that down, once we nail that down, we'll start writing and figuring out what we're going to do.
And we're definitely doing one. So it's not a question of like,
we just need a theater,
will we do this
basically.
Again? No, we will do this again.
Hey, if you listen to this show and you have access to a theater and between 30 to 50 people,
we need a theater and an audience. So if you have that,
we will come and we will do it.
Contact us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Speaking of contacting us, we got some emails.
Yes.
This first one's going to put a smile on your face. Subject line, about Harvey. So this is about our episode on Harvey back from May Shell, where Michelle picked all the movies. So the email says, thanks so much for this episode. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Really enjoyed it. However, I think you missed a fun explanation for the end. There are many Harveys. Neither Elwood nor Mr. Chumley are bereft. All Harveys, and I love that, by the way. I love what is about to be said here.
Okay.
All Harveys are really all aspects or views of the same hyperdimensional Harvey who visits this world to observe and help the poor, limited creatures that live here. If Elwood and Mr. Chumley ever met again, their Harveys would simply be one Harvey for that time, then separate again when required. Many or one, it hardly matters to Harvey. Like a three-dimensional creature hovering over flat land, the Harvey being sees deeply into our world through the dimensions of good versus evil and hope versus despair. By giving glimpses of truth, it heals wounded hearts. That's what I think Harvey is. It's a magical movie. Wow. Isn't that great?
Yeah, that's
What a great-
fantastic, and
Yeah.
kind of took my brain on a little roller coaster.
I went on a little journey as well. We should have
Wow.
had this person on the
I
Harvey
know.
episode.
I know. I'm so glad that is still getting a listen here and there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, thank you very much for saying this. This email was not signed.
Okay.
And so I don't
Thank
want to
you.
give out this person's email address to
Yeah, no,
everyone
that
listening.
wouldn't be good.
Yeah. And I'm just gonna go out. I'm gonna say I agree. Next email subject is Army of Darkness. Hey, remember when we did that?
Oh, remember that one?
Yeah.
What a doozy woozy that
What a
was.
silly episode, honestly.
So silly, so silly.
They say Mitch and numbers. I was laughing so hard.
Oh God,
Don't throw numbers at Mitch is the point.
that's right.
This should be a new segment. Raimi does horror comedy better than anyone else. I never knew that Seth was really into this one. People might be surprised to find that, but it's true. I also love the dialogue. I don't think anyone else could have pulled this off. P.S. Ash is possibly my favorite horror franchise lead. Whoa. Gonna need to process that one for a little bit. P.S.S. I'm really sorry I didn't make the live show. That's okay.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah. P.S.S.S. Skull, saxophone.
Yes.
Yes. Michelle had requested
Nice.
people send their skeletons and their favorite instruments.
Yeah. Thank you. Is this from the Email King?
This is from Ben.
Ben. Thank you so much. And by the way, Seth throwing numbers at me is a segment that happens every week. Y'all just don't realize it.
Yes. Towards the
It's
end of the
called-
episode, I say.
It's called the budget and what it made
Yeah.
every week.
Next email, subject, rest in peace, swashbuckling September.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, friends.
Hi.
So sad to see Swashbuckling September come to an end, but it's been a blast, and I think Army of Darkness was the perfect movie to wrap this month up as its adventure meets horror perfectly and just in time for the spooky season. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
A few things. In my opinion, Army of Darkness is very much a horror movie. It's horror comedy. Where we were saying it was not horror.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I was screaming.
Oh no. Oh no.
Yes, I was screaming at you for thinking it's a silly movie, but it was all in love and it's okay. Because is it kind of stupid? Question mark. Absolutely. But is it a masterpiece? Question mark. Absolutely. I often say that Sam Raimi gave the world the only perfect horror trilogy, and I stand by that. Oof. That's also something that I would need to process. Perfect horror trilogy. I'm not sure that exists. But yeah, Evil Dead might be close to it. P.S. I actually got my boyfriend a Necronomicon / Book of the Dead replica from the Evil Dead 2 era for Christmas this year, and I attached a picture,
Oh,
and this is from Josie.
Josie. Well, that's a cool present. That's
Yes,
pretty
and I sent you
great.
the picture of the Necronomicon.
It's, when you zoom in, you're just like, oh, who's that teddy bear?
I don't know if I would say that, but
Oh.
it's a person's face skinned and stretched over a book.
Or if you really zoom in, you're like, look
Yeah.
at those brownies. Yum.
Hey, that's a good snack idea for a Halloween party. A Necronomicon tray of brownies.
Oh my gosh, that is a great idea.
Yeah. Make a pan of brownies.
Wow.
And then scratch the Necronomicon into it.
Mm-hmm. With the face and everything.
Tag us when you do that, listeners. Hashtag
welcome.
movie friends Necronomicon cookie brownie baking tray.
That's right. That
Yes.
whole thing.
Hey, if you want to be like these people, send us an email, moviefriendspodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. Hey, I'm very excited about this episode today.
Stoked.
We've got a special guest.
We sure do.
Kelly.
Yeah, Kelly Harris.
Special effects wizard.
Yeah. And just like one of the kindest human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Love her heart, love her soul, love how much she loves animals. I
Months
love
ago,
her so much. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I'm gushing over her.
That's okay. Months ago, we were I don't know, we were talking about horror movies, and I was like, Kelly.
Yeah.
Like, we actually know someone who does this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And she was so gracious to come on and talk to us about Bride of Frankenstein and a whole bunch of other things. It's a really fun conversation. But before we jump to that, we got to write down our guesses for our ratings.
We sure do, Seth. We sure do.
Mm-hmm.
Let me grab my pen.
Mm-hmm. I'm back to my pencil.
Hey, oh, where was it? Or did you
I don't
pick
know.
it up? Oh, okay.
Might be a new pencil. I don't know.
Oh, mystery. Okay.
By the way, folks, the whole time you're listening to this episode, just remember, I'm fully painted green.
I expect you to show up every week like this now.
No way.
You've set a bar.
We keep
Can
doing.
you do different colors? Can you do different colors?
We do Wizard of Oz. Just keep doing movies where I have to show up as green characters.
Green Face
Shrek.
Month. Green Face
Shrek.
Month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's so much we can build on. Okay. My rating for you is locked in.
I am also locked in. All right, let's go over to our conversation with Kelly.
So when's the last time you've watched it?
I watched it last year, actually for the first time.
See, I was the opposite. So I haven't watched it in years, but I've like obsessed with it. But like, here's my thing is that I used to be such a deep dive hipster when it comes to horror movies that only recently I was like, if it's in theaters and if it's not trauma, I don't want anything to do with it, right? So I've actually been watching mainstream movies.
Sure.
And then haven't watched the old ones. And like, it was actually really fun. I felt like I was like revisiting it for the first time in like 5 years, you know? And,
yeah, you were like reverse engineering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, I really just love embracing the trash. Like, just like, it's like a different kind of trash, you know? It's
Yes.
like
Yes.
trash with money,
Right.
you know?
Before we let the evening get away from us, though, I do want to ask Kelly, you've done a lot of makeup, you've done a lot of effects, and I was absolutely gobsmacked the other day to find out that you were part of the team that made the Alien that was at the VMAs with Sabrina Carpenter.
Yeah.
So what the heck was that?
It's what I do, darling.
Just another day? Just another
This is
normal
why I
day?
love Kelly
day.
so much.
I,
Kelly's like,
uh,
and
Yeah.
Love it.
No,
Love it.
No, they're like, hey, I need an alien. Then I found out, oh, it's for Sabrina Carpenter. And then that day they're like, yeah, she's going to smooch her on stage. And I was like, nice.
So are all of the things that you work on smoochable, or did you have to take that into consideration?
There's a lot of things that went into it because they were like absolutely no creams because we couldn't have her going on stage having blue smooshed all over her face, you know?
Sure.
So it was more like, and actually so they had like a dress rehearsal and we had to reset the red and cover it with blue and put this and that. So it's like the alien can be smoochable, but don't transfer the blue to Sabrina. And it's like,
Wow.
so yeah, so there's a lot that goes into it, just chaos. And it was really fun, you know, it was just like really fun.
How long did that take putting that together?
I think we were out for 5 hours.
And then
Yeah.
what about taking off? What's that like?
And usually the rule is half amount of time to apply. We do removal, but no, we wanted to get her the hell out of that. So it was like,
Yeah.
it was maybe like hour, like
Oh, okay.
30 minutes to an hour. It really just depends because if she was in full body prosthetics, then we have to sit and we have to chisel with adhesive. Nothing pisses me off more than all of these like review or like the TikToks where people are just ripping off things. Like when I was younger and like in my early 20s and would go to horror conventions, I thought it was so funny and I would rip off my prosthetics. Number one, okay, there's a few horror stories. One time people were like, yeah, rip it off. And I had these horns. I was this like blue Beetlejuice looking demon devil person. And I ripped it off and ripped off half my eyebrow. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
At least it's my job to draw them back on. So, but no, it never grew back right.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
I've got stories. So
sure.
that one, and then I was a orc for Motor City Nightmares. There we go. Really fun convention. I don't know if it's around anymore. It's just like 10 years ago, 15. Oh Jesus, I'm old. So I was an orc and I ripped it off, and it took a patch of my like 5 layers of skin off, and I had like exposed. Yeah. So don't do that.
Don't do that. This is a lesson.
The story.
This is a lesson here.
If you like your eyebrows, and if you like your skin, don't do that.
Yeah. Since we're talking about Frankenstein tonight, did you ever do the full Frankenstein makeup on someone, or Bride of Frankenstein on you or anyone else?
Yeah. The answer is yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, the answer is yes. Yeah. Many, many, many times.
Like to the point where you're over it, or where you enjoy it each time?
Depends on the mood. Cause like there's sometimes it's a classic. I was like throwing on the brow, of like general, and then the beehive, and like honestly, my beehive game is great. But at the same time, I would take out chunks of my hair afterwards because it's so overprocessed. So you know what? Honestly though, I think when you do it for a living, it's the removal.
Yeah.
I was Count Orlok, Nosferatu last year.
Sure. Oh yes, I remember seeing that. Yeah.
That one I've done a few times. There's always somebody who wants to be Frankenstein. There's so many, or Frankenstein's monster. There's so many different, like, you know what? Actually, now I'm thinking about it. I've never done somebody to look as Dr. Frankenstein. Like, people need to step their game up. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Well, it's funny because
the real Frankenstein.
I've been thinking about that for Halloween just for Aunt and I. And I'm like, if I were to do Aunt as Frankenstein's monster, obviously the application would not look great. But I would want to be Dr. Frankenstein.
I love that. See?
I don't want to be Bride of Frankenstein. I want to be Dr. Frankenstein. And Aunt could be my monster I created.
So Kelly, as a professional, how do you feel about my application?
Flawless. Your blend is giving texture. It's the lack of paint on the neck gives.
That's right.
Save my jacket.
Yes.
The lack.
Well, I come
beautiful.
with a brow pre-installed.
Oh yeah, it's
like
great.
I already have that like whole shelf. Yeah.
And then you got the white bolts in your ears.
That's right.
That's
true. And also not painting in your ears. Like, I was Lily Munster this year, and I was picking blue out of my ears for like 4 weeks.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, you, as much as you get in there, it's in there. You know, I think at this point the checklist is what haven't I done?
Ooh.
And like, no, and that's whenever people come up to me, they're like, I have something weird, and I'm like, try me.
Right.
I really, I don't know the last time I've been like, oh yeah, that's new. I made a pulsating hairball for this, like,
pulsating hairball.
Yeah, so it's like a hallucination. She's turning into a cat. She throws up a hairball, and they wanted it to like breathe.
Oh
so
my
I had
gosh!
Like, yeah.
We should have come to you, Kelly. We just did Space Jam, and when we were going through our prop list, we had on it glowing basketball.
We did. That didn't make it into the show.
How can we do this? We should have asked you.
I'm sure that there's some sort of like hollow plastic light drill, like if it's like plastic based basketball, and then you just put an LED light in it. There has to be a basketball lamp. Okay, anyways, besides the point. No, okay, sorry. Now I'll give you that.
We'll come to you next time. Next time.
Yes.
I do the like 1,000-yard stare. Like, that's me into work. Like, I call it my beautiful mind moment, where people come to me and then I'm like, get the numbers, but it's really just like ghouls and cobwebs and bladders. When I say bladders, I mean that's what we call things
Right,
that like
right.
expand and stuff.
Right.
Sure, sure.
I realize there's names that sound normal to me, but are not.
Right. Right. Your language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what came first for you, if it was horror or the makeup and the work with your hands. Did the two come up together?
I don't know. Honestly, I was just a weird kid that now I'm a weird adult that does it for a living.
Got it.
And like,
Got it.
no, it's funny because growing up, I wasn't allowed to dress as anything scary.
Sure.
And I remember the first year that I kind of like could get my own money to buy my costume, and I secretly painted myself as like the Wicked Witch of the West because I was like, oh, I'm going to secretly be evil, and like, it's like, oh, my goth is in the little goth closet, and like something just. I've always loved horror movies. That's always been a big thing. But like, as soon as that green paint went on, I was like, yeah, this is it. Like, So moral of the story, support your weird kids. Otherwise they turn out like me.
There you go.
So ironic that I wasn't able to do that. And now I do it for a living. But yeah.
Pretty cool. It's pretty badass, actually.
So, Michelle, you watched this movie for the first time.
Yep.
Kelly and I have both seen it.
Yeah.
And last year, we did all Frankenstein for all of October. We did Franktober. And so we were very much steeped in this. And I went back and listened to that episode that we did. And at the end of it, you were like, I'm just going to watch Bride of Frankenstein. I can't believe I'm going to watch a movie of my own free will. And then it didn't happen.
It didn't. I know. I listened to that episode as well. I was like, wow, there's so much in here I said I would do, and I just didn't.
Yeah. So revisiting this sequel that takes place moments after.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't even really take place after the other one ends. It's like a direct continuation.
Yeah. Yeah.
How was that? And, seeing it for the first time and.
Yeah, well, a couple of things. I was like, oh, let me remember what happened. Because again, you watch a movie for the first time. If you never go back and revisit it or look it up, or you like, as soon as we do the episode, it's done. It's out of my mind. Like, I'm not thinking about it. And so going back into this world, it started to come back to me. But I was like, wait a minute. I thought Henry was dead. What happened to the Baron? What Elizabeth is different. So things I was noticing. Yeah. I mean, quickly went away. But I mean, that ending of the original the first one, I should say, is just so strange.
It just abruptly ends.
Yes.
And it's similar to how this one kind of just abruptly ends. And
yeah, but this one makes more sense than the last one.
Yeah, the last one does end. Henry is alive. And it's that whole thing of a son for the house of Frankenstein. And they just kind of like raise their glasses and it's like, movie's over.
Right.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't mind it. I laughed. I was like, okay, this is funny.
But it's also like, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a vibe.
It's a vibe. Yes, it's a vibe. And you rewind it and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah. Did you enjoy this one as much?
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah. Kelly, I was so excited to reach October because we're doing Universal Monsters. And I have been wanting to do this, and it's been in our shared note of movies to cover. And I forgot what else you had ideas for this month, Seth, but one of them was Universal Monsters. And I was like, please, can we do this theme? Because I really, really want to do this. And so just getting cozy, like putting on my green light and having like the movie and sitting in the dark. I was like, yes, finally. So this was very, very enjoyable for me. And I found it entertaining and I found it funny.
Very funny.
And also just waiting a very long time for the bride to come. I did not know she does not come until like the last 5 minutes of the film.
Yes.
That's the common thing, is that it's not about her. And in the end, but the fact that she's so iconic in those 5 minutes.
Right.
Like, but like the veil, the hair, the everything. I got goosebumps. Like she's...
Yeah.
I'm obsessed. It's just when like the hair comes out and like the flowing, just also, I love that they just have a fan on people the entire time. Like, I know, and I'm going to go back to my old moving pictures voice, right?
Yeah.
So we got the thing, turn on the fan, and it's literally just somebody like, strung out on Quaaludes with like the most unsafe, there's no safety on these sets, and they've got no grates on there, just metal death, just, and yeah, Hollywood in the golden ages, that's the real horror movie.
Yes. Oh,
For
absolutely.
For
But,
sure.
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it.
I mean, it is such a good buildup because you're waiting and this isn't a long movie. And so I paused and I was like, oh my God, I'm 40 minutes in. We have no bride yet. When is she coming? And so finally, I mean, I was so fixated on finally when they're in the lab, finally when we're building her. And then when her fingertips move, I got chills. I was like, here we go. Here we go. Here she is. And then her hissing, everything.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Can we also talk about how like Frankenstein's monster just slaps the hell out of people the whole time?
Yeah.
I'm like, that's such a mood. That's me and Joe before we have our coffee. He's just.
Yep.
And then it's me.
Very powerful slaps.
Yeah.
Like just everybody.
Yeah.
Like not like stomp, like literally just slap.
Yeah.
I want a montage. It has to be out there of just Frankenstein just slapping people. It's just like when you've had enough, just
stiff arm slap.
He's definitely upgraded the violence from the first movie. When he throws Maria into the lake in the first one, it's very upsetting, and he's upset by it. And we talked last time about whether or not he was intentionally trying to hurt her, and then this time around, he's just like, yeah, no, people are terrible. I'm going to kill just about everyone that I come across. And we have another Maria moment very close to the beginning where, a woman falls into a little crevasse of water. I don't know quite what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes to save her, and then she just screams and screams at him. And there's this great thread throughout this whole movie of like people rejecting him over and over and over again until, finally the bride rejects him, and he's just like, yeah, I think I'm just going to blow up this entire castle. But he is much more violent, killing way more people. That one person, when they're looking for her, is it Frida? They're like, Frida, where's Frida? And then you come across Frida's dead body. Like, is that, did he kill Frida?
But that's the
I don't
thing.
know.
Because we don't see him slap her. He doesn't slap any kids. They're just like, I feel like, okay, this is where SVU comes in, right? Because I feel like there's a real serial killer out there, and Frankenstein's monster did not kill her, right? But they're like, oh, it has to be the monster.
Right.
And then there's somebody on the other side of those bushes, like, was it? I don't think he killed Frida.
Right. Was it Dr. Pretorius just roaming around town?
Because he's abducting, he's like manipulating, he's abducting, he's, using, and also with his like first science experiments with like little jars, I was just like, this is just a Hollywood, like being like, look what we can do with and like how much time that must, I love it.
Okay, I'm glad you love it because I am alone on this. I've done research since watching this, and usually I don't listen to other shows talk about it because you don't want like the outside thoughts to mess with your thoughts. Like, let my thoughts be natural here. But like, truthfully, this was probably my favorite scene. Dr. Pretorius and the miniatures, because I'm like, this is 1935. This is blowing my mind. How we did this. And also, like, I don't know. I love Dr. Pretorius. He is mad. He has no ethical reasoning for anything. He is obsessed with just like making life with Dr. Frankenstein. And I am here for it. And I love it. And I love the little people. In fact, I have watched that scene about 4 times.
Really?
Wow.
And I keep looking up. I'm like, how was this done? And I just keep getting like, maybe it was like this, and maybe, how they did it. But I'm like, no, I need like a full breakdown because this to me was everything.
I actually, there are some books that I've read about like what sometimes they'll do is they'll have like clear parts and they'll cut it out and they'll actually project the movie
Yes.
onto a screen and record that, but then have a separate projector projecting the thing. So it's a whole slideshow thing. There's a name for it. I'm not good with
but what you're saying is what I was reading.
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, this looked really good. This was I was not.
It made no sense.
Well, that's
It was
yeah.
It's like, look at our moving magic, moving pictures.
That is the argument.
That's tiny.
Right. That's the argument. People are like, this lost me. It didn't make sense. It wasn't necessary. And to me, I'm like, no, we're now seeing how crazy he is because he's saying he made life from his seed. He grew, right? And so that's what he's obsessed with. And there's just no, like I said, respect or consideration morally and ethically about like keeping these little people contained. But again, I'm also like really into miniature things. The whole like big little, that's me. I love little tiny things. I love really, really, really big things. So
I
don't know. I love
this. Yeah. When I watched this for the first time, I was quite struck by how different in tone this is from the first one. I may have watched them back to back. I'm not sure. But this one is so much more comical, and we will get to her. We will devote more time to her, but I'll just quickly mention, Una O'Connor as Minnie, which
my girl.
But she's so comical at the fire of the windmill. So I was like, oh, this is quite different. And then, like you said, we're kind of deviating a little bit from the ending of the first one. So I'm like, all right, I'm along for this ride. And then when we got to Dr. Pretorius's miniatures, I was like, I don't know what this is anymore. This is so weird. But this time around, I don't want to say it was scary, but I thought about like the implications of that, if that was real. And I was like, this is actually really disturbing and weird. And I think the further you go along with Dr. Pretorius, it's more disturbing and weird. And so while I agree that the effect, it looks great. It looks so crisp, right? Like it looks really, really good. That was something that I kind of checked out on my first time around, but I like it now. I think it's good.
I think it was just a look what we can do moment. And so I know that this is where my weirdo brain goes, is like what made me check out. I was like, who sewed those little costumes? I don't know why that's where it's not like, oh, of course, there's many people. I'm like, who's making those costumes?
Yeah.
I don't know why that's my brain, but like,
no, I thought that too. And then as I'm like realizing that, I am so obsessed with this one scene, I'm like, it made me just think of like, I am such a different movie watcher than most, I think.
Right.
I don't
Going
know.
back to Minnie too, like Minnie with the cute little,
Oh yes.
So I feel like this is like the difference between like me in my 20s and me versus now is like when I was younger, I was like, oh my God, I'm such like the Bride of Frankenstein and this and that. And now I'm like older, I'm like, oh, I'm Minnie. It's like watching Beauty and the Beast and like, when you're like, I'm Belle. But you're really the woman with like 3 kids who's like, I need 6,000 eggs, And I realized they're like telling her, she's like, this thing's going on, the fire, the drama, the monster. And they're like, shut up, woman. She's like, well, I'll just be laughing when you're all murdered.
Yes.
Right. And
it's like, she's the real MVP in this movie.
She is. She knows what's up.
And she's like, you can wait in the hallway. I don't know you. What was your name?
That when Pretorius shows up and Minnie is showing him in very begrudgingly, she's like, Pretorius, that's not a name.
Right?
So great.
As if Minnie has heard every name that has ever been. It's great. Yeah. So Una O'Connor, we recently covered her when we did The Adventures of Robin Hood. And Michelle, did you realize that's the same one?
Oh, you bet I did.
Okay,
and then I was like, my goal now is to get one of her films every month.
Oh, okay. That's a good goal.
Like, how can I work her films into our show because I just love her so much. This just solidified it.
She's so good, and I do love her. I think she might be my. It's hard because there's one scene in this movie that is my absolute favorite, but overall, excluding that scene, Una O'Connor, she's so funny in this.
Yeah.
And she's the realest one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love that she shows up and she's saying what needs to be said. And like, they're just dismissing her. They're literally telling her to shut up. And she's like, well, and she's like, shoot them. What is going on? There's this monster still out there. Like, shut up, woman. And she's just like, well, I'll just dance on your corpses.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. She's just like, I told you so. Well, I'm just going to get out of here because y'all done. And she's the queen of queen of I told you so, just Captain Foresight, just the reasonable voice, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
There was a moment where it's like, I know that there's a lot of murders happening and she's scared, but when she goes to leave Elizabeth and she's like, I don't want to leave you. I have a terrible feeling. Elizabeth's like, get out of here, Minnie. It's fine.
Just dismissed. I feel
and then that's when she gets kidnapped.
Right?
Right.
Also, Elizabeth, I love the like over dramatics of like the faint female, you know, and I just love it. It's so
Well, it's like you said, this is very like old Hollywood, showy. I rewatched the final scene and just taking in the close-ups, the contrast. It's like, this is such a movie, capital M, you know, fainting couches, little miniatures exploding. And it's so enjoyable. I can't imagine, like I said, the first time I watched this, I wasn't super hot on it, but there's such amazing, iconic images in it. Like, this movie is powerful.
Yeah.
Like you guys were mentioning, like chills and pretty amazing. I want to mention quickly Henry Frankenstein. Colin Clive comes back and he's really not doing well. This is 4 years after the original Frankenstein, and he was really having a hard time. He's having a hard time on set, and he would actually pass away only 2 years later. And he's not like an old person in this movie.
Oh. And didn't the original Elizabeth pass away? Or she was sick?
She was in an asylum at the time.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Which who knows what was happening, because they used to put women in asylums for, you know, having a bad day. Yeah.
Right.
So it's unclear, but they did recast Elizabeth. And I like this Elizabeth. I mean, I like both Elizabeths, but
yeah.
Like Kelly mentioned at one point, Frankenstein wakes up. And so if we continue from the first one, Frankenstein is yeeted out of the windmill. He hits one of the fans and then tumbles to the ground, right? He's brought home and he wakes up. They think he's dead, right? And just immediately launches into like, I think I'm going to keep doing this. It seems like this would be a good idea to continue. I'll have a whole army of undead people. This will be great. And Elizabeth is like losing, and rightfully so, like losing her mind. And I've seen some people say that performance is over the top in that moment. I don't think so. This guy is, she either needs to appeal to him or like run for the hills.
But like, it wasn't surprising for me though.
That he wanted to keep going?
Yes, because when you are passionate about something, I mean, he created a person from the dead. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, but then that person almost killed him, and
yeah, but it's like, yeah, but what if?
I guess so. Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think, Kelly? Like, would you keep going?
Talking about running to the hills, what happened was his wifey to be, or was to be, got swooped up to the hills, which he got blackmailed to go. She's in the hills and he's not running to the hills. He's like forced to go back to it because of somebody else trying to steal his talent, you know? And then the monsters in it is like, I need a girlfriend, like, and then he's like, I need someone like me. And then he's like, then he's forced into it. And then he's like, yes. And it's like, he's forced into going back to it, even though he knows what happened and it's wrong. I shouldn't play with these things. But at the same time, it's addictive, that power,
right.
That's
the
right.
knowledge. And
That's
like,
right.
I mean, why do you think I'm still in the entertainment industry? I keep, and then just something happens and I'm like, yes, and, I keep on saying, I'm like, these 16-hour days, they're getting me, this and that. And then somebody hits me up and they're like, hey, I need a alien for Sabrina Carpenter. And yes,
Right,
right.
Like,
yes, exactly.
But I love it. I love what I do, but I mean, I hope nobody's stealing Joe and like taking him in some cave upstate,
Well,
Can you imagine? Oh,
well, right. So he
Princess
does
Joe.
have a change of heart after she is so like, I'm seeing ghosts everywhere, but whatever, like that whole thing. And so he's kind of like, you know what, fine. And Pretorius shows up, and Pretorius, I think, straight up is the devil in this. This movie is so full of religious imagery, and I think like not beyond just images, like actual like allegory. Pretorius is like, look, you and me together. Look what I can do. Look what you can do. We'll build a lady. Wouldn't that be interesting? Which I thought was like one of the worst lines of dialogue I've ever heard. Quite frankly, it's so bad. But Henry's kind of forced back into doing it after having like a change of heart. So Dr. Pretorius, we already kind of mentioned him. I find him to be like just so spooky and like over the top villainous. There's one moment in the movie where I think it might be Minnie. She's like, oh, Dr. Pretorius is here. And Henry says, well, send him away. And she closes a door. And in the same moment, Pretorius walks through another door at the exact same, like there's a stairwell above her. She closes the door and then Pretorius enters the room. And it's just like, so like, you might as well just be like, this guy's Dracula. or like this guy is the devil, but I love him. And I loved him so much more this time around. I think because I just gave myself over to like, this is so camp over the top. This isn't like a gothic horror like the original Frankenstein. This is something that's kind of, wagging its tongue a little bit more than that one. Where the first Frankenstein, I feel like, is so serious and beautiful and tragic. This one is just like turning up the volume to 11 and being like, let's see what else we can do with this.
Also, opening it up was like, I felt like, I'm sorry, I'm a huge Simpsons nerd, but it felt like when like production's running out of money, so they have to fill in 30 minutes or like a whole episode with flashbacks, like sitting on a couch being like, hey, remember that time when to that, and like filling clips, like that felt like such a like, how do we cut $2 million off this budget, or like in them 50 cents, in a 50 cents in a jig, but but I kind of forgot about the intro scene where it was like, hey, remember that time where that guy made a monster? Wasn't that wild? Look at this woman crocheting. Can you believe that she literally defined a generation and founded science fiction? Like Mary Shelley.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh, I pricked my finger with my little lady fingers. And it's like, yeah. Also, I don't know if you know much about the story of how Frankenstein and the whole story came up in that whole meet.
Yeah. I do.
Oh,
yeah. But also like the three of them here, like this is a threesome.
I'm like, okay, but this is a family podcast.
No, it's not.
There is okay. So basically, there was a pandemic going on, and all of them are just doing a bunch of opium and like absinthe and like having a big orgy, and then we're like, let's write some scary stories,
right?
And then she's like, oh, I'm just gonna make science fiction a whole like it's like horror, and she's the mother of all of it, and then for that to just be, and then I've been really into history lately, and the Baron. Like, do you know his backstory and like the actual guy in that story?
No.
That's its own separate podcast.
Oh, man.
He's a bad.
I'll look that up.
I feel like I need a whole chart of like, okay, there's this in the pandemic, and then this led to this, guy, bad guy. But yeah, so it was just a bunch of rich people locked away in quarantine, and writing, just taking a bunch of opium and getting wild drunk, having weird parties, and that's how we get here.
And writing stories.
Yeah.
Who can write the scariest story? But on that point, Seth, what you were saying, what Kelly was saying of like, we open it so different that it's leading us into just a totally different tone. I mean, just the way the three of them speak with one another. And even Mary's laugh when, I forgot who says it. It must have been Lord Byron. I don't think it was Percy, of just like, the way you wrote that chilling story. And she's like, oh, her laugh.
Yes, yeah.
I was just like, okay, tone shift.
Yes. Yeah, it's the first one opens up with the guy coming out being like, hey, by the way, we're about to tell the story of Frankenstein, and it's real spooky. So you should probably leave if you don't want to hear that.
Right.
I like both. What I like about this one is just how much Byron is like antagonistic towards Mary while also inflating her. And in this, you almost have a replica of Elizabeth, Pretorius, and Henry in these three characters, where Lord Byron is playing the Pretorius, the antagonistic, the drawing out of more, like, hey, you did this thing before, remember? Oh, that was so crazy. And she's like, well, maybe there's a little bit more. And he's like, well, you should tell me. And also just how this is a religious allegory, I believe. It's funny because after watching it and reading into it, I saw so many people commenting on how like anti-religious this is, and how there's there's the inverse of the crucifixion, because in scripture the crucifixion comes first and then the resurrection, where this is the monster who's resurrected first and then crucified. And I can see all of that for sure, but Lord Byron at the beginning is like, I feel like God himself is throwing these lightning bolts on my head because I am the worst sinner in all of England. I was like, wow, we're really, really leaning into this. And, this movie is 89 years old at this point, right? And so we watch this and we forget that the first Frankenstein was banned in many countries. A lot of states in the United States did not want them to show Frankenstein, which is like, it's laughable now, but they really took what they considered to be blasphemy, like very, very serious, and the violence. And so when this one was made, there's 10 deaths, but that they had filmed 30.
Oh, wow.
And so they had to cut. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why this is so short. And one of the deaths that they cut, they actually did a little switcheroo. They included it in the intro, the flashback, hey, remember this story? And they go through all the scenes. One of the deaths that happens in that didn't happen in the first one. It was actually filmed for this one, and they put it in there. And the Burgomaster, we're supposed to have a death scene in this. There was a lot of stuff that they cut, and a lot of different, a lot of the conversations regarding like God and scripture, they had to totally redo because the censors were like, nope, you cannot say that. And again, like if you watch this now, I would watch this with my 3-year-old kid. Like it doesn't seem like this crazy big offensive movie, but back then it was really pushing a lot of buttons.
So they cut out the evidence of Frida's death. So we need answers. Justice for Frida.
It's possible.
I say he didn't do it. I say that there was some other guy that was like, I'm going to shove this little girl dead, and then, there's the monster. Right. So will we ever find out? Is it kind of like the Event Horizon of the,
right.
If it's just like, we'll never know. The footage was burned, mysteriously.
I mean, back then they were like, they weren't like, oh, we'll keep this for the Blu-ray extras. They were like, burn it. It didn't end up in the movie. Like, what are we going to do with it? Especially because James Whale was so done. He did not want to come back for this. They eventually convinced him to do it. They let him make another movie, and he came back to do this. Also worth noting, this movie is very highly regarded as like a early huge entry in like queer film, because James Whale was like openly gay back in the 1930s. And even when we said that we weren't going to do this, someone said that they said, I love queer icon Dr. Pretorius.
Jesus Christ. I mean, if you, Disney villain is, queer villain energy,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
that eyebrow,
Yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So we already talked about him a little bit, but Dr. Pretorius, played by Ernest Thesiger, is it too much? Is it just enough? Or could it have gone further?
I say could have gone further.
Yeah.
I want to, wait, can we swear on this one?
Yeah. Michelle swears all the time.
Okay. I'm like tiptoeing. I want a full serving of cunt. I want queer icon. I want I feel like he didn't get his full evil. I don't know. So what's your favorite scene in this movie? I know Michelle, you said it was the little jar things it's the who's sewing the costumes for me. But Seth, what was your favorite scene?
So my favorite scene, and it's the whole sequence with the monster and the blind guy.
I see. The thing is with me is that I can only get the young Frankenstein scene.
Right.
That's the thing is that I love that scene. It's like, but I made espresso.
Yes, yes. Yep.
That I can't they said, I think that was like both one of my favorite and least favorite, just because it was so dumb, but I loved it. But at the same time, it's like, if you take away sight, you take away seeing what he looks like, that you can grasp humanity and what it means to accept and love. And when, it's like when you don't judge somebody and you have an open home and an open heart, you can friend, but also smoke good.
Right. Yeah.
Drink good.
Right.
Right. I mean, going back to Dr. Pretorius, and on your note, if we wanted more, I feel like this movie is just a little, there's so many good things, but just a little misguided, because I want more. I want a story of Dr. Pretorius. Let's see him making his stuff. He's, to me, I love his character. I really love his character. I want more. I want to see him doing the most over-the-top experiments, and him working with, is it Carl? Who goes
It is Carl.
Goes to the accident hospital. That's what it's called. To gather, such things he needs.
Which,
so,
Michelle, murdered that poor girl.
Oh, well, totally. And I think we needed to see Pretorius murder that girl. That's where I would have liked to see more of Pretorius. Truly
do you think
show.
He would though. I think
yeah. Truly show that he has no regard for anyone, and show him do some of the dirty work.
Do you think that some of the murdered scenes that were cut out were none of it was there was never an accident hospital? They were just out there murdering. They were getting those fresh specimens, right?
That's right.
Dun, 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 dun.
Right.
Yeah. Justice for Frida.
Yes.
I agree. Yeah.
Yes.
That was one of my biggest questions, is why do we never even see, we don't even see the monster running away. It's just, but it does create this, it creates a better sense of dread and public fear, that the first one, we go straight to torches and pitchforks. And this one, it more shows, it's kind of not to bring up a movie that people probably hate, but David Gordon Green's Halloween Kills, I thought did a good job of showing the fear throughout Haddonfield of rousing up people to go and kill Michael Myers. And
I loved it.
I liked Halloween.
It. Besides the point.
Yes. I would have liked to see Dr. Pretorius do some killing, and maybe do some more devil on the shoulder with Henry, show him having those conversations and pulling him in more and more, instead of just jumping straight to we have Elizabeth, you got to do what we want.
Yeah. I mean, should we have seen that? Then that reframes the whole movie, right? Because it's so iconic to have Bride for 5 minutes, if that. But if we had less of monster running through and getting into mishaps, and I loved the scene with the blind hermit. I think that is so sweet. But if we cut the running around bit and had more of Dr. Pretorius, then maybe it could have led to more Bride.
Yeah. I'm curious for both of you. We say that we want more Bride, right? And there's this philosophy in horror movies of perhaps the less you see, the better, right? And Jaws is credited with working so well because you don't see him, Bruce, as much as was intended. And so I'll just answer first. For me, I love The Bride. I love this performance, but maybe I love it so much because it's only 5 minutes and it's only the end and then it's over. So how do you guys feel about that? Do you want more? Do you think it works the way it is?
Well, this is what I've been like thinking about, because again, going into this movie, it's titled Bride of Frankenstein. She is so iconic. I'm waiting for her. I know what she looks like. I've seen this image, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting, and maybe this is part of it, and then we finally get her, and then we kill her. We kill her. I mean, the monster kills himself, her, and Pretorius, and Henry and Elizabeth can go live, which is great in itself. And so I'm still kind of like, would I want more Bride, or is this ending kind of great? And the fact that we see her for such a short amount of time and she is so iconic. That's where I am right
it's
now.
Tough.
Yeah.
I say, so when I talk about creature design and when I'm going through with people is I think that wham, bam, like all the time. It's like, that's why like the xenomorphs and aliens are so powerful.
Sure.
Is that like, they're crawling in the corners and then we're talking about her. I feel like they could have talked about her more and like gathered her body and like talked about that more. And like the end, that's the only thing that I could say is more focused on like because we have our heart, which also pre-heart surgery that, I don't know about my timelines and medical timelines. I was like, oh, that's actually pretty advanced, but it's like that. And then, the murdered woman to get the fresh heart and stuff. I feel like if they talked about assembling her more, but at the same time, I think that the fact that you are waiting and you're waiting and like, Michelle, that feeling that you're having, like, when is she coming? When is she coming? And the fact that she has such a beautiful reveal. It's just perfection. The framing, the contrast. Oh, take my glasses off because she's just so gorgeous. Just every angle. It's like you can tell when they're like in it, like it's like the 3/4, the off plane, the lenses, the lighting. Also the like I'm not a scientist. The like electrodes that are coming out and like spinning down and then coming from the back. It was just perfection. And I love that, like, also, let's face it. This is a movie about getting friend zoned and him not handling rejection well. And he's like, to all my friends out there, if somebody says, if I can't have you, no one can, run because they're about to burn your fucking castle down. So like, love shouldn't hurt. And I think that it was perfect. I think that like the fact that you're so ready for it and then the fact that they just kill her leaves you with this just like, oh shit, like, and like, because he comes in, if you're hanging out with somebody, friend, and just really not respecting her bodily autonomy, just like creeping on, and then she's like, and like going to find safety in her comforter, and him like all that, and it's just like. And then, of course, as soon as his wifey shows up, he's like, oh, no, the other one, like, slaps her, leaves with his wifey, isn't like, well, I mean, like, she was forced to, like, build her anyways. But it's like, I think it was the perfect ending, every angle of her, and it just left you just jaw-dropped, focused, because if they had her every other scene, I feel like it would lose that jaw-dropping just glory, And I say less is more. when it comes to creature design. You want those xenomorphs in the corner. You want this. And I feel like that she has nothing but drama. She has nothing but you've been waiting for this anticipation, you know? And then you're like, what is it? You know? And then it's like, oh, are they gonna go off in the sunset together? But the fact that he's like, that it's nothing but just pain and suffering, you know, till the end with him. Was it we belong dead?
Yes,
yeah. But like on that note though, like as much as I'm like waiting for her to come, I never really thought about like, well, then what? Right? Then what? What are these two monsters going to do? Are we evolving even more? We're going to learn how to speak and live in society and be accepted? Oh, what a thought. Wouldn't that be nice? But we know that's not what's going to happen because they'll be constantly judged.
Right.
So
that was the whole point of creating her is he's like, oh, none of these people accept me. So I'm going to make somebody where it's like, maybe the moral of the story isn't to try to create somebody into what you want them to be, but to really find the love and acceptance within yourself.
Right. And okay, so I have a question for you guys on the end. Monster says, you go live, we belong dead, right?
Yeah.
So is he saving Henry because Henry created, like, what's going on there? You created me, you have a wife, a love here, you go live. We belong to die.
Is that like the toxic, like, you know, grandmother of like, no, it's fine. It's fine. You go have fun. I'm just going to, we belong dead. It's fine.
Right.
I think that the monster is very perceptive in this. Later in the movie, when he's asked, like, do you know who you are? He actually repeats back words that the hunters outside of the cabin, of the blind man's cabin, had said to describe him. He said, yes, Frankenstein created me. He repeats almost exactly what they said. And he also knows that Frankenstein doesn't want to continue the experiments because of Elizabeth. And so when he sees Elizabeth show up and she's like, no, I won't leave you. You know, she's like reaching her arm through the door. I think that the monster is able to like put two and two together, that if they hadn't intervened and kidnapped Elizabeth, that Frankenstein wouldn't have continued the experiments. Where with Pretorius, he's like, no, you're evil and I'm miserable. And so we need to kind of go down together. The original ending of this, though, was that the monster pulls the lever and blows all of them up. So Frankenstein and Elizabeth, they all die. And they were like, no, you can't do that.
Right.
I like that ending better.
Yeah, I like that too.
It better
That's
too.
darker.
Yeah.
That's
I
darker.
like that. See, I feel stop smothering artists. It's since the beginning of time. You know,
they should have been allowed to do it. It would have been just quite an abrupt ending, probably more abrupt than this is, because, you know, they can't exactly show, you know, pathos from inside of a crumbling castle without spending tons and tons of money. So we just get the miniature and then Elizabeth and Frankenstein looking on saying, darling, darling. And then the movie ends. But even that, those final two lines, whether, you know, intentional or not, like speaks to the theme that's running through the whole movie, which is like relationship and finding people who accept you. And I think for me, like, again, when I watched this the first time, there was stuff that didn't work well. And the blind man in the cabin, it is so hard to like separate that from Young Frankenstein. Also, this is one of the worst lineups of violin playing to violin sound that's producing. Like he's just straight up going straight across and then across, and the music is like ding 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 ding, and it doesn't match up at all. But I love this scene a lot, and I was really like gripped by it this time around. Just how immediately the monster took to him because he was nice to him, and how, you know, the blind man is like crying and praying, grateful that like someone has been sent to him who's also afflicted. And the monster has been through a lot of like really terrible stuff, like almost being burned. And the blind man is able to show him that like the thing that hurt him isn't inherently bad.
Mhm.
He's like, no, fire isn't bad. Look, it can do these different things. And how like it takes someone who is like totally non-judgmental of you to be able to show you the things that you've been judgmental of because they've hurt you. Like, no, like it's actually, yeah, it was, yeah, I really like this. And I think it's a good contrast with Dr. Pretorius because both of them give a meal to the monster. Pretorius is down in the tombs and he's eating this meal with the bones of a young maiden, and he's just like laughing to himself in the dark. And like he doesn't know the monster's down there at this point. Like to Pretorius, this is just like a good time. Like
Queer icon. You guys, I literally have piles of bones.
Right.
I love it.
You
I
know,
love it.
I'm like, I literally have like these super dumb pumpkins everywhere, and I'm like, because at first I was like, he literally just like, oh, you have these crazy murderers show me down to these bones. And they're like, oh yeah, those are some nice bones. Be gone. I love this. This is my
Yeah.
like what?
It's crazy.
It's so good.
But also the fact that like that's where I want to go. Like I want my own gated crypt, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
It's also
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
goth icon, queer
Yeah.
goth icon,
Mhm.
wine. And then I love how everything he does, he could be like eating a sandwich. He'd be like, sandwich, my only weakness.
Yeah. Yes. Everything is
You
his
know?
only weakness. Yeah.
I love it. I mean,
it's
but
great.
that's such a like great response to anything. Be like, oh no, of course I'm a drunk, lush murderer. He's like, oh, murdering. It's my only weakness.
Right. Yeah. It's great.
He's so good.
I love it. I love it.
And so like the monster, yeah, he has these two different contrasting like invitations, right? To like eat with me. So like the blind dude who is judgment free wants nothing from the monster other than to be like, let's live together and we'll just love each other and everything will be great and I'll teach you. And so like he's like giving to the monster, he's teaching him, he's like bringing him up out of, like the dredges of society to be like, you can communicate now and whatever. And then you have Pretorius who's like, yes, come eat with me and we're going to go kidnap a woman together. And and the monster is motivated because he says like someone like me, like friend is good. It's someone like me. And again, like there's so much like allegory, like religious allegory throughout this whole thing. So obviously Frankenstein is a story about creation and resurrection. Frankenstein, the first movie, talks about how he's become God because he's created life, and all of those sentiments are repeated like throughout this whole movie. And the monsters, the way that he speaks, where he says like, good, right? Friend, good. To be alone is bad, right? Well, so if we go to the creation story in Genesis, after everything is created, it's like, hey, on the first day, this was created. And God was like, this is good. And then on the second day, this was created. And God said, this is good, right? The first time that God says something isn't good in the Bible is when man is alone. He says, oh, he saw that Adam was alone. And he says, this is not good. And so that translates super simply like into this story. And again, is like kind of an inverse Adam and Eve. Instead of going forth and multiplying, they just die. Like the bride and the monster, there is no like life beyond their immediate creation. Like they have to die. And it's so tragic and horrible, but it's I don't know. It's beautiful. Like I said, it's very powerful. Like this movie is, I think, much more than I gave it credit for my first time around.
Yeah. Well said, Seth.
Oh, thank you. So we already mentioned her, but I want to go back to her because she's incredible. Minnie, Una O'Connor. I don't know what else there is to say about her, but
what isn't there to say about her?
I think that
she's the moment.
She's the best.
She's the voice. She's the reason. She's the Ripley. She's like, hey, fuck all this. And everybody's like, shut up, woman.
Yes.
And then she's like, you know what? fuck all y'all. I'm just gonna do my job. And then even like Elizabeth she's like, I really don't think you should be alone right now. And she's like, oh, puh. Like literally like 15 seconds later, it's just like, moral of the story, listen to Minnie.
Listen to Minnie.
Like, I really, that's just like, listen to women, hear their voices. And I think that's the moral of this. Another moral of the story is go to therapy. Getting friend zone happens. Listen to Minnie. If someone says no one can have you, if I can't have you, no one can. Run into Minnie's arms, because that bitch will tell you what you need to hear.
Perfect.
Perfect. She's a real MVP. I kind of low key this year, I kind of want to dress up as her for Halloween.
Yo.
Like, I feel like that's the full circle of my life, is that like I've gone from like dressing up as all these monsters and characters, and I'm like, I need to be like the egg lady in Belle, or like Minnie, and like, and then people will be that, and I'm just going to tell them, I'm like, well, I'll just be laughing when you're murdered. And then people have no idea what I'm talking about, and they'll be like, are you going to kill me? Maybe. Is Minnie a murderer? No. She's just doing her thing.
I think Minnie should have had the last laugh in this movie, and she should have been there standing, looking at the castle, and been like, "I told them so."
That's right.
Yes,
that's right.
That's the real ending.
Yes.
Thank you. She's like, I told you not to play God.
Right.
I told you.
Yeah.
And it's like, I told you that motherfucker was out. And like every step, she's at the prison, and the guy. Also, it just felt like, as a woman, it's just like so exhausting. You're like, yo, you guys. And he's like, oh, we have more important things. This murderous monster who, like, y'all just figure out the situation. It's like, he's back. He's like, we have more important things. What else is going on in this population of like 150 people?
Exactly. Yeah.
Other than like a rampaging, like angry guy, it's like, yeah. Like, listen to Minnie. Just.
I love in the opening when, she's convinced that he's still down there. No one else believes her. He goes off and kills the parents of Maria, by the way. So this whole family dies in one day. And then he's just standing behind her, and she turns around, and she doesn't say this, but it's basically like a like run off screen, like. It's so great. Yeah, I love everything that she does. I'm in love with.
The runoff screen was so good, and like the theatrics, because that's on some sound stage, and they built this like this thing, and she's she's owning every inch of that set.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Because she's the moment. Guys, I'm going to dress up as her for Halloween.
Please do. I need to see pictures.
I need
that one headpiece. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, you know it.
There's amazing hats in this movie. Michelle and I always like to talk about different hats in movies. This one, the Burgomaster, has a pretty amazing hat and like the big mustache. I was just like, this dude, like, they spent all their budget right here.
I love it. I love
one shot of him in the beginning, but yeah, it's pretty great. So you mentioned the hissing. So Elsa Lanchester plays both Mary Shelley in the beginning and then also the bride at the end, which I didn't pick up on the first time around. I was just like, oh, who plays the bride? Because they do the same thing that they did in Frankenstein, where it's like the creature or the monster, ... question mark. We don't know who played him. He might be a real monster. And this one, they do the same thing. The bride, ... question mark. She modeled the hissing after swans. Her and her husband.
I love that.
Yeah. Charles Laughton, who's an incredible actor, directed one of the greatest movies of all time, Night of the Hunter, which also uses a lot of like German expression imagery. And that movie failed financially. And so he never directed again. It's one of the greatest tragedies in Hollywood history. But apparently the two of them would walk and the swans would hiss at them.
I love that.
She's like,
I love that.
I'm gonna do that. But she reminds me, not just from the hissing, but just in the way that she moves, and like she feels very snake-like to me, very like serpentine, and her look was inspired by Nefertiti. So the hair going back. And I think that's part of why her image is very iconic, because it's based on something extremely, extremely iconic. And then the lightning bolts. I mean, yeah. And I love how her design isn't just female monster. You know, we just talked about Space Jam and Looney Tunes, and how so often in Looney Tunes, the female counterpart is just Porky Pig. You know, Petunia just looks like Porky Pig wearing a wig. And in this one, it's a whole new design, contrasting colors. She's got all the bandages where he's in black. It's amazing. And something that I've thought about a lot is female monsters in horror movies. And if you ask, you know, an average movie person, name me 10 iconic horror monsters, they're going to say Chucky, Michael Myers, Freddy, Jason, right? So many males. There are not a ton of female villains or monsters in horror movies that have reached the level of like being as iconic as any of the male counterparts, except for the bride. And she's in it for 5 minutes. And it's pretty amazing. And like, I think modern day equivalent would maybe be Samara from The Rain, you know, and in equal parts, she's not in it that much, but the impression that she leaves is like very, very impactful. I'm glad Maggie Gyllenhaal is doing a new Frankenstein's Bride called The Bride.
I saw that.
Yes.
Interesting.
So I'm glad to see that, you know, this character will get hopefully more screen time this time around. But
I mean, I guess the thing is we don't talk much about her backstory and like her assembly, you know, not to like objectify her, but like it is, you know, and it's just like the gathering of her. It's talking more about the theory of her versus the creation of her, you know? And I feel like even if that was more screen time, you know, what if you and I did our own backstory of him making the seeds of the tiny people, but it's just me with a bunch of bladders and like you know, in the thing when they do like the test in the petri dish.
Yes.
It's like you know, but it's like a little ballerina that's like
yeah.
From this, I was like, how can we do just like miniature people month?
Miniature people month.
The kids.
I need movie. Well, I did that. I mean, what movies can I now make this? I'm so glad I watched this movie for this scene.
I'm so surprised that that's your favorite.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. I am alone. Nobody else.
No, you're allowed to love what you love.
I do love what I love. I do love what I love.
You know, I separated. I feel like it was its own thing for the tiny people.
Oh,
I feel like that's its own world and its own separate story.
For sure. And I'm not taking away from the ending. It's just like that one little bit into like
I feel like it needs its own moment.
It does. Well,
I'm surprised it doesn't have its own
That's a Michelle moment. Michelle moment. Yes, Seth.
That's a great sequel right there. You know, Pretorius leaves all those little people behind and then gets blown up. So what happens to them?
What happened? I mean, God. The king is escaping. The king is so fresh. And then you have the mermaid, who was an Olympic swimmer, by the way. Mm-hmm. And so she's in there, which I'm obsessed with that. The dancer who he judges because she only dances to like a certain song or something. And the queen wants nothing to do with the king. They have their own personalities. I love it.
And then what do we like? Are there others? Or are they just five? You know, what about the rejected specimens?
Right.
That before he got to be so perfected, right? Also, are the wardrobes part of their flesh?
Right.
So, or what if he has separate people that are sewing these tiny costumes that are mutant failures, right?
That's right.
But then they overthrow the king, and then the queen is like, "Thank you for taking him. Well, please let me guide my people to the future." So she starts this like half mutant crawling in. See, it's about classism. It's about mermaid love, and she only wants to dance to one song, but maybe it's what she has. So
it's what she loves.
What she has.
Yeah.
So this movie was made for $397,000, $100,000 more than the original. Box office numbers, as we discussed last time, they were recorded a little bit differently. So the closest I could find was that by 1943, this had made $2 million.
Damn. What does that translate to nowadays?
It's a lot. It's a lot. 400 grand up to 2 million. This was a success. Not as big of a success as the original, but still.
Where do we think the money went to the most?
Oh, lining the pockets of the studio heads.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I have to watch my mouth in entertainment, but
yeah.
But like, okay, so we think like sets, hats and hair, you know. Also, if you visit the museum,
the money like
image,
on camera stuff.
Yeah. Also, if you visit the Museum of the Moving Image, they have her hair. Do you guys know that she's a redhead?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Pretty cool.
Yeah. At the Museum of the Moving Image, they have her. She's, oh God, I think that's like peak, like wig job is like wig restorer is like touching up the Bride of Frankenstein's wig. Like that's peak.
Yeah.
That's peak.
One of the greatest wigs of all time.
It really is. Name a more iconic wig. Yeah.
Right.
So the production schedule went from January 2nd until March 7th. So very soon. And then this came out in April. So
wow.
Extremely fast turnaround. Yep.
Wow. I mean, I'm used to that, but
yeah.
Yeah.
So this movie has 98 on Rotten Tomatoes, 4.0 on Letterboxd, 95 on Metacritic. So across the board, pretty great. This is not in the Criterion Collection. In 1998, this was added to the National Film Registry. So pretty early on from when they started that registry. And Ebert gave this 4 out of 4 stars.
Oh.
So now we go to a segment of the show where we talk about what we liked and what we didn't like. It's called Happies and Crappies. Okay, so I'll go first very quickly. I liked everything with making the monster a full character and teaching him to talk, making him perceptive. The 3 stages of rejection that he goes through. First, the woman at the water, then the blind man, and then finally the bride. I loved everything about that. Give me more of that. Make this just follow the monster basically for the whole movie. And then my crappy would probably be, it's so hard to pick because everything in this rules. I don't know. Let's say the runtime. Make this longer. Put back in the deaths. The crappy here is the production code. Evil, censorship. That's my crappy.
Yeah. My happy are the miniatures, as I keep saying. And my crappy is also the runtime because I want more.
Yeah.
Give me more. Yeah. Kelly,
Great.
Happies and crappies?
My happy, I've always, of course, loved the makeups and the design, but I think really honestly, looking at the set design and like the lighting and when the candle moves and how strategic all of that is, I don't think it gives enough credit. And it's just the everything about the design was just perfection. The set, the mood, the feathers on Elizabeth's, every inch was carefully thought and strategic and beautiful, you know? Crappy, Minnie needs more credit. Like, I really just think that but I think that it's like, yeah, I don't know. I just, she's giving. I think we just need to love her more and talk about her more.
I'm glad we're representing her now. You know, 2024, honestly, we could look back and be like, no, actually, Minnie is the star.
And I would say my crappy is, and when it comes to the all-encompassing Frankenstein universe, society.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
Because we are the monsters.
Absolutely.
You know? So, smoke good, drink good.
Yep.
Friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Well said. Very well
said. Well said.
Speaking of well said, we asked some friends on Twitter what they thought Amanda H. at Beatrix Kiddo says, my love for queer icon Dr. Pretorius is deep and knows no bounds. And then she posted a picture of him raising a glass.
Nice.
Paul Muad'Dib at Trigraptor says, the guy with the tiny humans in jars is a freak.
An icon.
Ryan
Summer.
Lohner at Ryan Lohner, Lohner, says, it really says something that the bride only has 3 minutes of screen time near the end and never appeared in any other Universal horror films, yet is still one of the most famous and instantly recognizable movie characters ever. I posted a GIF of the bride and Television David at Television David.
Hello, TV David.
Yes, wrap your hand around that one.
Yeah.
Says the score during that scene is sublime. And that's something I just wanted to mention very, very quickly. The first Frankenstein, no score. James Whale actually was of the opinion that scores were a throwback to the silent era and that the new talkies did not need a score, which is such a funny perspective. And so this one is full score. So if you watch them back to back, that also helps you kind of get knocked a little, off kilter, because the first one, again, it's so much more gothic and German expressionism, where this one is more just a full-on movie. So those are some people that we do know. Now we go to a segment of the show where we hear from people we don't know. It's called Half Star, 3-star, 5-star. All right, these are reviews from letterboxd.com, which is a app and a website where you can rate, log, review movies that you have seen. We start with a 1/2-star review, which is the lowest rating that you can give a movie. We go all the way up to a 5-star review, which is the highest rating that you can give a movie. And I'm going to read the 1/2-star review. Do you have a request, Michelle?
In an accent? I don't. Not from this movie.
I think I'm just going to do it as the monster.
Oh.
Or give it old Hollywood.
Or that
I can't
too.
do that. I can't do that.
The
no.
moving pictures. Honey, we're going to the moving picture show.
I can't. That's like the
silver
mid-Atlantic
screen.
accent.
Sweetheart.
Sweetheart, my honey, my darling, my gal. Okay.
No,
monster
you need a
face.
better actor for that. But I can do bumbling guy who learned to talk yesterday.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
Okay. So this is the 1/2-star review.
The Bride of Frankenstein adds very little to the original and structurally is an abomination.
1/2-star review.
Good job, Seth. And that review is,
Beautiful.
we don't agree to that.
We don't agree. We do not judge you,
Bad.
Right?
but we do not agree. 3-star review says, bruh, what? When she... I pulled this 3-star review just because it was so funny. Okay. Bruh, what? When she finally showed up, the movie had 3 minutes left. Skull emoji. Not terrible. Probably one of like 10 of the watchable 30s movies that I've seen. But there ain't no way this is James Whale's masterpiece. Invisible Man was leagues better. And I totally disagree that this is one of only 10 30s movies that are watchable. I think there's many, probably hundreds or thousands of movies from the 30s that are watchable. But yeah. All right. 5-star review says, after actively watching this and the original so close to one another, it is far more noticeable just how much this improves on it in basically every way. Narratively, far more of a focus on the actual monster, Wales' direction, even the little opening framing device is just fantastic. I think I still prefer The Invisible Man overall, but I really get why this is regarded as the best of these. Just the most of what you could ever want out of a classic monster film in one package. Perfect film.
Wow. Very
There you
nice.
go.
Very
That's
nice.
it. So Kelly, thank you very much for joining us.
Kelly, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
This was a lot of fun.
Kelly, do you want to plug where people can follow you and all the things?
Just Kelly Harris Effects. My life is an NDA because I actually work in the entertainment industry. So most of the stuff on there is my personal work. But yeah, if you just like weird stuff, and then all I do is like post my work and my sculptures and like my masks and stuff and then animal memes. So if you and my stories, yeah, and then Mo pictures because he's the best. And yeah, I'm just psychotically obsessed with my dog, and I make monsters for a living. So yeah,
Very cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah,
Halloween.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm gonna stop.
Hey, that was fun, right?
A blast. So fun. We love Kelly, right? And all her Halloween stuff.
I know. I loved having Kelly on because I was like, oh, wait, maybe I should be energetic on these episodes.
What?
Put forth a little enthusiasm into what I'm saying.
Yeah, you were a little flat. I'm not going to lie.
Well, I was just in awe of her grandeur.
I know.
Yeah.
I can't stop staring at the swirls of green on your forehead.
Yeah, me either. It's going to be a pain in the butt.
It actually, I don't really know what's making that texture. Is it
well,
just
it's
the
just
way
that
it's
it's not as dark in some spots.
Yeah, I'm getting lost in it.
How do I wash this? How do you wash this off?
Soap and water.
It's gonna run into my eyeballs.
Close your eyes, Seth. What do you mean?
Good thing I've already got green eyes.
Oh my God.
Okay, so let's do our ratings.
Okay.
We rate a movie as a schmovie, a movie or film, 1 through 5 stars, and give our final thoughts and recommendations. And why don't you go first?
Okay. So what do you think I did?
I put down that you rated this a 4.5 film. And I know that that's reaching high, but that's just what I felt.
Wow. No.
Okay.
This is a 4-star movie for me.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, this is movie. Yeah.
Got it.
But I loved it. I had a great time watching it. As you guys heard, very into the miniature scene as I pioneer my way solo with that.
Yep.
That's one of those scenes that I think I will rewatch again and show Anthony. What?
You loved Minis and Minnie.
Oh my God.
The Mini Minis.
Wow.
Okay. Anyway, sorry.
Do I make my rating higher because of that?
The double mini rating.
The double mini rating. I love that so much.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I thought of that myself, but you brought it to my attention. I kind of want to write a review for the double mini. Let me write this down. Double mini. And I am absolutely recommending this.
Yeah.
Wow, double mini. Oh, wow. What are you drinking, by the way? You're drinking blue liquid?
I'm drinking Glacier Freeze Zero Gatorade. I'm trying to not drink carbonated beverages on the show.
I have to say you burped a lot less tonight.
Because of the no carbonated beverages. But I also can't drink sugary drinks. Like I can feel the sugar coursing through my blood.
I don't mean to laugh at that. That's not a funny thing to laugh at. That's very rude as your friend to laugh at that.
I intended it to be funny, so it'd be rude not to laugh.
The green makeup, Seth, makes you
very crazy.
It makes you so subdued and like monotone.
Yeah. I think that might be part of it. Is I'm trying to not sweat. I'm feel like I'm holding it together here. I did this bit and now I regret it so much, and so I'm just trying to not make it worse.
Because you're just a very yeah, man, calm, cool green Seth.
Green.
I think I like green Seth aesthetically to stare at this, but energy wise, I'm like,
I'm cool as a cucumber, baby.
You gonna be Pickle Seth? Oh my God.
Pickle Seth. Yeah, I'm Pickle Seth. Oh my God, I'm Pickle Seth.
Pickle Seth. Okay. All right. Let's move on. All right. So for you, I wrote down 4-star movie in the corner of my notebook.
Very, very close. Very close. I'm going to say 4 stars, but I'm going to call this a film.
Ooh, okay. Nice.
Yep.
Okay.
I recommend this movie. I think that you should watch it. Like I said, I think this movie is powerful in its imagery.
Yeah.
And I think it's powerful in its messaging. I think that there's a lot going on beyond just a sequel and a horror movie. And this might be unfair to say, the original Frankenstein, so great. good, wonderful, right?
Good. Wonderful.
I think this might be better.
Wow, because you didn't feel that way last time we talked.
I know. I've completely flipped on this movie. I think that this might be better.
Wow.
But like almost as a standalone thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like if I watch the two back to back, I might lean towards the first one. But yeah.
How is The Son of Frankenstein?
Never seen it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Man, we could have started back up our trilogy. What are we going to do in January when we run out?
Hey, if you've run out of patience for hearing us begging for ratings and reviews, just leave us a Dane one and we'll stop.
It's true.
Wherever you're listening, Apple Podcasts, give us 5 stars. If you're listening on Overcast, hey, reach out, leave a comment. Castbox, leave a comment, man. It's cool. If you listen on Spotify, each one of our episodes has a question. I think the question just says, what did you think of this episode?
We can edit those.
Feel free to respond, man.
Yeah.
Also, send us an email, moviefriendspodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought about Bride of Frankenstein, Minnie, the Minis, any of it. You can also support the show, patreon.com/moviefriendspodcast. $5 a month gets you access to all of our additional episodes, all of our additional series. We've got That's Messed Up, where I'm doing horror movies with my wife, not just horror movies. We just put out Beau is Afraid. Yeah, that's a real long, weird, strange, complicated movie. We've also got Ghibli Gabs, where Michelle watches Ghibli movies for the first time and we talk about them. We've got our episodes on Freaks and Geeks, Seventh Heaven. Yes.
Can I chime in?
Yeah.
It's the perfect time to check out Weirdcast. Happy 25th anniversary.
Wow, that's
to Freaks
insane.
and Geeks. And
wow,
we have the full season recapped for you and discussed.
So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on there. You also get access to our patron-only Discord, and you get to vote on movies that we do every single month. Every third month is a patron-selected theme. You get a lot of power, all for $5. It's totally worth it. Next week on the program, we are continuing with our... we don't have a name for this month.
Yes, we do. It's
Monster-tober.
Universal Monsters.
Yeah, but that's not like a snappy name.
Oh, right. Everything needs a little quip to it.
Universal Mocktober.
Whatever you'd like, Seth. You're the boss.
So we're going to be talking about Creature from the Black Lagoon from 1954, directed by Jack Arnold, and it is 79 minutes.
Ooh, love that for me.
Yes, and we're supposed to have a guest for that episode as well. I won't say anything in case it doesn't happen, but
yep.
Yeah, look forward to that.
Excited. I'm really excited to watch this. I'm excited for the whole month.
Yeah, it's a good
There's
month.
no bitter Michelle here.
Look at that poster.
Oh my gosh.
Just a lady and a fish.
That little creature looks like a sea monkey.
Looks like me right now.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you, Seth.
Thank you very much for listening. Till next time, have a good one.
Movie Friends is produced by Seth Vargas and Michelle Rubenstein. Music by Anthony Vicora. If you like the show, please subscribe and give us a rating. It really helps us find new friends. Thanks.